All right. Well, the tariffs have been randomly paused by Donald Trump. He seems to have no idea why he did it. They cheered a stock market reversal yesterday, which only paired part of the 15% losses we had seen since March 24th. And then as we speak right now, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is back down another 1,000 points. Wow. Where to even start with this? First of all these people saying none of this makes sense. Why can't people just accept that the tariffs, which were permanent and not a negotiating tactic and weren't going anywhere, are now paused because every country gave Trump what he wanted, even though they actually gave him nothing? Why can't you all just accept that? And of course, that's not actually my position. That seems to be the sort of blended, combined, cumulative position of every MAGA acolyte who has been defending everything around this issue, even as the 180 turns continue. Now, I want to be super clear. Yesterday, after the tariffs were paused, markets rose 8 to 10%, depending on the index that you looked at. For context, stocks were down 14.5% since the Trump tariff announcement. They recovered yesterday about 9%, meaning they were still down 6%. And now they're down another 1,000 points, which is roughly, depending on the market, we're looking at 2.5% down on the Dow, 3.6% down on the NASDAQ. So this is a complete and total disaster. But they've abstracted everything. They've stepped back from all of the details and are saying, hey, you know what? Trump did an amazing thing. He paused the tariffs for reasons he can't explain. And we saw a partial recovery of the stock market, still down as of this moment, something like 9%. And Trump's calling it a victory, despite nothing being fixed about trade and despite countries giving Trump nothing. If your belief was that the tariffs were being put in place because of things other countries were doing, which was Trump's claim, we need to do these tariffs because here's this country treating us unfairly, that country treating us unfairly. What is the victory? Because not a single country has conceded anything. It was only 2 days ago when Donald Trump was asked, are you open to pausing the tariffs? And his reply was, we aren't looking at that. Trump has now proved that they have no plan. It's all just crisis to crisis, all caused by him. Here's a compilation from Sarah Longwell of all of the MAGA affiliated people over the last 3 days saying, no, we're pausing. Of course
This time I'm doing what I want to do with respect to the tariffs.
Would you be open to a pause in tariffs to allow for negotiations?
Well, we're not looking at that.
The president was asked and answered this yesterday. He said he's not considering an extension or a delay. I spoke to him before this briefing. That was not his mindset. He expects that these tariffs are going to go into effect.
There is no postponing. They are definitely going to stay in place for days and weeks. That is sort of obvious. The president needs to reset global trade. I don't think there's any chance that President Trump's going to back off his tariffs. This is the reordering of global trade.
We're going to hold the course, and this has been years in the building, years in the making.
This time I'm doing what I want to do with.
And just like that, the tariffs are paused. Now, here's there's going to be one takeaway to each aspect of this that we deal with. The first and critical takeaway here is that they are bragging about stocks being up yesterday, even though it didn't nearly recover the losses, and they're down another 3% today. Here's Trump bragging, we've never had a day like this ever.
When you see what happened today, I don't know if it's still there. I looked an hour ago, but we were up like close to 3,000 points. Nobody's ever seen a day like that. I think that's a record, isn't it, fellas?
Definitely.
Is that a record? Who would have thought we were going to have a record like that after watching? But because...
And there is Lutnick. Yes, sir. Now, of course, an actual person who cares about reality would say, well, sir, with tears in my eyes, I do have to mention we were down 15%. We've only recovered part of it. Even accounting for yesterday's recovery, this is still one of the worst starts economically to any presidential term in 50 years. And by the way, nothing really has been resolved. And that's why today the Dow is down another 1,000 points. So completely just throwing darts at the wall. Let's now ask the next question. Why does Trump say he paused the tariffs? You know this is going to be a doozy. What is the best way to learn a language? Immersion, living where the language is spoken and using it every day. When that's not possible, you can still learn a language, and I think the second best way is Babbel. Our sponsor, Babbel, is the science-backed language learning app that works and works quickly. Don't pay hundreds of dollars for private tutors or waste hours on apps that don't really help you start speaking the language. Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons are handcrafted by over 200 language experts to help you start speaking a new language in as little as 3 weeks. You know, when I travel to a country where I'm unfamiliar with the language, I just start using Babbel a few weeks before I get on the plane, and I end up with a surprising level of comfort with the language once I'm at my destination. There are studies from Yale, Michigan State University, and others that continue to prove Babbel is better. One study found that using Babbel 15 hours is like a semester of a language class at college. Babbel has sold over 16 million subscriptions, and all of Babbel's 14 award-winning language courses are backed by their 20-day money-back guarantee. Here's a special limited-time deal for my audience. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for my audience at babbel.com/Pacman. Rules and restrictions may apply. The link is in the description.